The reason I picked it up is because it actually looks like an FPGA. It's a grid. That's literally an FPGA. It's a grid of gates. I'm Kaveh. I'm the hardware architect at Firedancer team. Problem solving is definitely one of the key skill sets you would have to get into this space. Every day we're facing the unknown, and we just love it. We don't know the answers. And right now, today, we have some problems that we don't know the answer to, but we know that we're going to tackle them with the help of the community, with the help of the team, and sometimes we have to reach to the academia. So FPGAs are not new. FPGAs are not new even in blockchains. Ethereum has been using them. All other chains have been using to accelerate the proof of stake, proof of work. What we did with Firedancer was we made it a network appliance. Instead of modifying your server, we're putting the FPGA in line with your network cable. So as the packets flow through, we inspect, modify, and filter those packets and then send them to your validator. A programmable FPGA, a programmable hardware, is very useful for validators because it is in their interest to stay up to date, both from software and hardware perspective. If every time that they have to upgrade their hardware, they have to pay a hefty price, that's not going to be very viable for them. And what also we've shown in the past is these FPGAs stay relevant for quite a few years. What we demoed in Breakpoint 2024 was actually running on FPGAs built all the way back in 2017. We chose FPGAs because the development time is lower. And also, if you think about it, we're using the economics of scale to our advantage. When we go with FPGAs, we're using other industry segments like aerospace and communication to our advantage because everybody else is also buying these FPGAs, so they're helping to amortize the cost down. So this is actually, I found it in a drawer of my daughter's, and yeah, just use it for memory, note keeping. Yeah, this is actually theirs too. Yeah. What you find in FPGAs is they are really good machines for parallel compute and communication. And the more I look around, the more I see every blockchain that I see, they have these two components. They compute the next block, and then they communicate that block within themselves to everybody who is contributing to the chain. And FPGAs happen to be good at these two tasks really well. When you buy a CPU, what you're buying is a lot of gates. There's billions of them. But when you buy them, you cannot change them anymore after that. But you can program them. That means you can change the content of the memory, but you cannot really change the gates themselves. Well, people started thinking that what if we make gates out of the memory as well? And what I have here is an actual FPGA card. And the chip on this card is actually built out of all memory. Every single gate on this chip is actually built out of tiny little cells that we call lookup tables. And those are the ones that actually constitute the gates of the FPGA. So this is what we call a PCIe card that you can plug into your regular PC or a server. Because you can see there's no fan on it. This is what we call a passive cooling. It relies on the airflow of the server to cool it down. And underneath this heatsink, there's the FPGA. And as you can see, there's like two QSFP cages that we can plug in cables directly to it. What other CPUs have you ever seen that you can plug in a network cable to it directly? And this is one of the reasons that the FPGAs are really good at low latency and high throughput networking. Blockchain validators are specifically vulnerable to DDoS attacks because one of the key components of blockchains is transparency. And what that means is everybody knows my IP, and couple that with monetary incentive, bad actors will attack me. DDoS stands for distributed denial of service attack. What you're really doing is you're overwhelming the servicer. If I'm receiving 10,000 requests a second and all I can service is 1,000 requests a second, legitimate requests will be denied service because I'm just being simply overwhelmed. When a validator is DDoSed, what's happening to them is they're receiving so many requests to validate that they cannot really seep through and find a legitimate request between them. So with software, what you're trying to do is you're trying to increase the rates at which you can process requests. But there's a limit. With FPGAs, what you can do is you can go so far and beyond what the attacker can send you that you basically nullify the attack. So instead of fixing the attack, you make it irrelevant. So one of the key points about mitigating DDoS is making it not your problem. That's actually a very important point. If I make a DDoS attack irrelevant to me and make it the problem of my ISP, then all of a sudden, they're going to solve the problem for me. I don't have to solve that problem anymore. Instead of being able to handle 1,000 requests a second, I can handle 1 million requests a second, which is basically what we can do with FPGAs. The FPGAs are so much more efficient than your traditional software that we can go orders of magnitude higher in terms of processing rate. So that's actually a smart way of dealing with DDoS. And that is exactly what we do in Firedancer. We make DDoS attacks irrelevant because no matter how much requests you throw at us, we will process them. How do we identify attacks? So attacks, as we talked about before, can take many different forms, right? It could be duplicate packets, it could be incorrectly signed packets. So what we've done is we actually created an architecture that is what we call it daisy chain architecture. So you can have one FPGA that finds duplicate packets, and it basically filters all those duplicate packets. And then you can daisy chain from there to another FPGA that basically checks the signature of the packet. And any packet that is incorrectly signed or not signed at all, but it has to be, it just basically filters those out. From all these daisy chains, what comes out is actually clean traffic and at lower rate that your validator can actually process. What we demoed in Breakpoint 2024 was actually 2 FPGAs daisy chained together. The first one was deduplicating packets. The second was performing 825.19 signature verification. And what was coming out of that was signed and deduplicated packets straight to the validator. Currently, we're going with the 2 daisy chain solution. Depending on which direction the blockchain goes and the functionality is added, or future attacks that we anticipate, we may add more FPGAs, or we may actually consolidate FPGAs into one as well. What else could be done on FPGAs? So beyond dedupe and sigverify, in Solana, one of the key components is packing. One could sit down and come up with a very smart and offloaded packing algorithm that you can offload to an FPGA, daisy chain them to the dedupe and sigverify outside the validator. So by the time the transactions hit the validator box, they've already been maybe pre-packed, or there's some sort of a marker in there that actually makes the job of the validator a lot easier. You could argue the larger the stake of the validator, the more incentive they would have, the more gain they would have from using these FPGAs. But because the cost of these FPGAs are so low relative to everything else in the chain, that I would argue everybody should use them. They basically come for free, given the incentive that they provide. And it's so non-intrusive. You don't have to change anything. You just cable in, cable out.